Wow, wonderful video indeed. I remember the day when Nelson Mandela was released from prison. I think I was at the location and we were all glued up and looking at the screens on TV and we were so excited. We didn't even know him because we all knew about the name Mandela, but the actual person was just like, a rumor. And as we saw him working out and then where he was released from, and everyone was shouting, screaming, and we were so excited. And he started talking. And one of the things that he mentioned was, as I walked towards the gate that would lead towards my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and my hate and the hatred behind, I'd still be in prison. And there onwards, Nelson Mandela led South Africa towards its days of liberation and peace. Good afternoon and a warm welcome to everyone. My name is Lebu, and thank you so much for making time to join in this program today. As you might know that tomorrow we'll be celebrating Mandela Day, and in line with today's topic, which is liberating leadership, we will be celebrating Mandela, and I would really like to touch base on the kind of a leader that he was. Mandela was a real world icon. So as we all know that today we are celebrating, tomorrow we will be celebrating, and today's topic is liberating leadership, which is organized by the Brahma Kumaris South Africa. For those who are joining us for the first time, I'd like to give you a brief intro about the Brahma Kumaris. Brahma Kumaris South Africa is a part of a worldwide spiritual movement, which is dedicated to personal transformation and world renewal. And this is done by teaching individuals to view the world as spiritual rather than just material. The biggest teachings support the cultivation of a collective consciousness of peace and the individual dignity of each soul, regardless of race, religion, culture, education, economic or social standing. And the main focus of the Brahma Kumaris really is to teach a form of meditation called Raj Yoga meditation, which offers a step-by-step process that helps us to focus on our deep inner strength and potential. We then begin to flourish and expand in the outer world, which can be viewed and it can be experienced by everyone. And in this meditation practice, we really see and recognize how silence is the real gateway to contentment. Today, I am happy to welcome Mike George to the South African shores virtually. And Mike is an author of 15 books, which are focused on self-awareness and personal enlightenment. In a unique blend of understanding, wisdom, and humor, Mike brings together the three strengths of the 21st century, which is management and leadership development, emotional and spiritual intelligence, and continuous unlearning. For the last 30 years, Mike has coached and guided and facilitated the executive development of managers and leaders in communities and companies in over 30 countries. Today, Mike will provide a practical insight on liberating leadership from inside out to help navigate and thrive in the new normal characterized by volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. We call that VUCA. Brother Mike, thank you so much for accepting the invite. We are really honored to have you with us today, and I'm a fan, and over to you. You are muted.
You were unmuted.
There we go. Thank you. That's good. There. Thanks, Lebo, for that introduction, and a very warm welcome to everyone. Thanks very much for tuning in, for zooming in, as they say. And I really enjoyed that introductory kind of overview of Mr. Mandela, Nelson Mandela. I very often use him as an example, as I think most people who are involved in helping other people be better leaders, as I imagine they do use his example. Because he was, in fact, de facto leader of the world for about 3 or 4 years. Everyone wanted to be seen with him. And I think that might be because he kind of suits the topic today. as soon as he was liberated, then he became a very effective leader. Not just that, but he actually expressed or showed us how to reconnect with our spirituality. And our spirituality is just our natural state of being, really. It's when our natural state of being shapes our thoughts, our feelings, and etc. And so he brought back love as forgiveness to the world. And so he never wanted to take revenge. He never got angry at the people who took 27 years of his life. But he showed us by his example, and some say that's the only way to lead is by example. He showed us how to forgive, which really is how to love. And so it's a combination of the two, and you bring the two together and you have the perfect leader for the world. And maybe that's one of the reasons why everyone wanted to be seen with him, or when they were seen with him, they were so impressed by him, etc. And I think we all kind of know the difference today between the humdrum manager and the leader in the organization. And really that's what I'm kind of addressing, although we're all potential leaders, because there's always someone watching us. And if that definition of leadership is true, in other words, we lead by example, then it means that we're always setting an example to someone, whoever's watching us. And if there's no one watching us, then we are. We're watching, or we're aware of ourselves. And so we're kind of aware of when we compromise ourselves, etc. But in the world of organizations and corporations, then it's a huge industry. Leadership is now a huge industry, because you can fit almost any topic, subject, exploration, development under the umbrella of leadership, because it's so much to do with the individual and what's called personal development. In fact, personal development is almost the same as leadership development. And of course, personal development at its deepest level is us realizing how to bring our own spirituality back to the context of our relationships. So in organizations and corporations, the focus for decades now has been on management, really, management development. But then in the past 10 or 15, 20 years, maybe, that focus has really shifted strongly towards leadership, what it means to be a leader in this modern world. The difference between the two, of course, is managers manage things. They tend to manage tasks and things, and leaders lead people. And maybe that's why the greatest training program ever invented to make the shift from manager to leader is called parenthood. Yeah, because as a parent, as an individual, we learn how to do tasks, how to manage processes, if you like. But it's only when we're a parent of children that we ourselves then need to learn how to lead people, the growing family, etc., around us. My favorite definition of leadership, again, in contrast to what it means to be an effective leader, maybe you've heard this already, I'm sure, is that manager tends to be a position, whereas leadership is an attitude. Yeah, manager's position, it's kind of 9 to 5 position, whereas leadership is an attitude which is 24/7, because you're connecting with people 24/7. So manager might appear on your business card. I'm the manager. There's my card. Here I am. This is my position in life. Didn't I do well? But leadership or leader only appears in the mind of the other person if they so decide. So it's really not up to me whether I be a leader or not. It's really up to other people, and it's how they see me. Yeah. So they will define my leadership, my ability, my qualities, my potential, etc., not me. Whereas as a manager, then Oh, my position, I'm manager. So we begin to see this kind of this difference. And I think the title of today, Liberating Leadership, is really appropriate because it's necessary to liberate ourselves from, well, what I would call a number of habits that we learn as we grow up. We need to liberate ourselves from these habits in order to be effective, more effective, in the context of our relationships, in the context of interacting with other people. And of course, interacting with other people is not clean or clear, it's kind of messy. Relationships are messy. And that's why leadership is also kind of messy. There's no one right way to lead. There's no one right methodology or technique or manual. Each one of us is going to define our own way of relating to other people. But in order to do that, there are some obvious habits that we create that stop us from doing that effectively, that stop us from relating, connecting with others as effectively as we could. And therefore, these habits stop us from being a leader by definition, a leader of others. So what I'd like to do is take you on a little bit of a journey in this time we have together and share some with you some of these habits that we need to kind of liberate ourselves from, habits that get in the way of our effectiveness in the context of our relationships. Because we're all relating, we're all in this context, therefore we're all potential leaders, we're all potentially being watched by others, we're certainly felt by others, that our presence with others is felt by them. And so certainly these habits are common to us all. So let me share my screen with you and take you on this little journey. And then if you have questions or if something's not working or not clear, or you need to give me a hard time, as they say, on anything that I share with you, then feel free to use the chat page, first of all, or if you're on YouTube, hopefully there's a column next to you where you can place your questions or issues. And at some stage, I will stop and see if there's any questions and see if there's any conversation we kind of need to have. So as you know, the focus of our time is about liberation, liberating the qualities of a leader, which really kind of starts with the 4 principles that are underlying the ideas I'm going to share with you. In fact, they underlie, for me, the 4 principles that we need to all kind of relearn in order to be effective in any context in our life. And the first principle is consciousness is what you are. It sounds easy, it sounds obvious, but of course we learn to believe that we are everything but consciousness, everything but the conscious being. In other words, we learn to believe we are what we see in the mirror in the morning. And that's the beginning of unhappiness, of stress, of sorrow, when you look at the reflection of your face and then you start having thoughts, well, do I look like that? Look at there's another wrinkle, the gray hair, oh my God. And so you suddenly become stressed by your own appearance. And that's why you have industries in the world today that try and relieve you of that stress. And so this is the first principle. I'm always going to be talking to consciousness, which is what you are. The second principle of self-responsibility is this is in a sense what I have to get everyone over in every workshop, every seminar, every talk, is this idea that no one else is responsible for how I feel. In other words, watching a movie about Nelson Mandela doesn't make me excited. Yeah. It's me that makes me excited. It's me that makes me unhappy. It's me that makes me emotionally upset. It's not the other person. It's not the situation. And that's really easy to say, but so difficult to practice. Yeah, but this is where we all need to go. We need to free ourselves from the illusion that they are making me feel. This situation is upsetting me. This news is bad news. I feel so bad. No, all of these things are just happening around me. It's my response that contains the upsetness, the anger, the frustration, etc. So this is the principle of self-responsibility. It's the very foundation of self-management. I'll revisit this a number of times. The third principle is curiosity. In other words, everything I share with you, you kind of already know. It's not new, but in order for you to really understand it for yourself, you're going to need to cultivate and restore your curiosity. What's he really saying? Why is he really saying this? This rings a bell, but I don't quite get it. And so let me find out within myself. In other words, I'm just going to draw a map of my own experience, and I'm saying to you, be curious about what I share, and then draw your own map, and you'll draw it in a different way. It's like all leaders are different. They all cultivate different leadership styles. And that's absolutely right. There's no one right way. So there's no one right map. There's just the map that you create of the territory called consciousness, your consciousness. Principle number 4 is either during this presentation or anytime you're going to become emotional. And emotion is like the flaring of your energy. I love this metaphor of the solar flare. You know, you've seen these pictures of energy flaring from the sun. And so it explodes off the surface. A little bit goes off into the universe, but most of it merges back in and becomes, once again, a whole part of the sun, or not even a part, but it becomes the energy of the sun itself. So this flaring happens. It's not right, it's not wrong, it's not good, it's not bad. It's not you shouldn't be emotional, you should be or whatever. But it's necessary to understand, why do I make myself emotional? Why do I disturb myself? Yeah, it's necessary, and you might get some clues as I share with you. First of all, habit number 1. Yeah, the characteristic of the authentic leader is they are self-responsible. They never project blame or complain at others. They're responsible for their thoughts, their feelings, and their behaviors. They accept that no one else is causing that. Yeah, now this is where, at the very first hurdle, this is where many of us let ourselves down, because we project responsibility, either mentally or verbally, onto other people. Yeah, we blame, we complain, we criticize, and really we're saying they're responsible for how I feel, for what I think, for my circumstances, for the way I live. Sometimes it's called victimitis. It's like a disease that we all learn as we grow up, because the culture's full of it. And we've 2 great teachers in Hollywood and Bollywood. They teach us how to be victims in our lives. And of course, it really means it's how we give our power away. As soon as you project onto someone else responsibility for what you're thinking and feeling, then you are giving your power away. So this is a habit that we've all learned, and we need to liberate ourselves from this habit in order to be effective in the context of our relationships. The authentic leader, the real leader in life, never considers themselves to be the leader. If you're having the thought, I am a leader, then it means you're probably not. Yes. It means you've sort of built your identity out of, hey, I'm the leader. You've built your sense of self out of this idea of what a leader is. And that means you cannot be yourself. You won't be authentic. You'll try to be, for example, what you imagine other people think you are, or what you imagine other people should see you as. And so this will compromise your authenticity. So the habit here is really, I'm position conscious. I'm making myself the leader, which really means I'm giving myself a position, which doesn't really exist outside of my own consciousness. Yeah. And so this is a habit that many leaders fall into, especially in organizations where they have a position and they think that position is enough to be recognized as a leader. But of course, it's not. It's actually going to be the birth of their ego. So, characteristic number 3 of the authentic leader is the ability to build empathic relationships with others. This is this old phrase, you know, do people really sense that you care about them? Yeah. Do they sense that you have respect for them, that you love them? How do they know that? Only when your intention is to build an empathic relationship with them as individuals, not as groups, not as teams, not as anything other than the individual. And so empathy is often mixed with sympathy, and it's not, it's quite different. Sympathy means you feel sorry for. Empathy means you understand, you know, the emotional state of the other. You recognize they're in an emotional state and you're present. You make yourself present for them to come out of their emotional state, to lift themselves out of it. It's not your job to lift someone out of their emotional state, but just to be present, to listen, to understand them, to be present for them. But the habit is that kills this ability is I'm mentally and verbally judging the other person. Yeah. And we often do this when we perceive someone as difficult. We put a label on them. Oh, there's that difficult Mike George again. God, he's always difficult. Oh, I don't like him. And so mentally, I'm putting the label difficult person on the other person. Whenever I see them, it doesn't matter what they're doing or what they're saying, but that label, that habit of labeling somebody and judging somebody, it has become a habit. You know, which was born somewhere in the past, might be long in the past, or it might be immediately in the past. So that kills my ability to engage with them in an empathic way, and therefore to build that relationship. So it's a habit. I'm not saying these habits are bad or right or wrong or good or bad. They're just habits. And when you understand how they're getting in the way, you realize the reason for liberation. I need to liberate myself from being trapped in this habit, yeah, because that's what's happening. It's like a trap, a prison, if you like. The fourth characteristic of the authentic leader is that they consciously build trust with everyone. Yeah, it has to be with everyone, especially if it's in an organization, is to build trust. And that sounds easy once again, but I love this metaphor, which kind of brings it home that it's an event that happens hundreds of times every day. So every time you interact with someone, it's like going to the bank. You either invest money or you withdraw money. So you either invest and therefore build trust, or you're withdrawing trust from that person. And so you're investing trust when you're keeping promises, you do what you say, you don't compromise yourself, you are authentic, you're a human being, and you're prepared to admit your mistakes. These are moments when you build trust in your relationships. But we tend to obfuscate, cover, tell little white lies, be late for meetings, etc., etc. And so we tend to withdraw our trust, our level of trust from the people around us. So it's only when I understand this principle that I then stop doing what really kills trust, or one of the things that really kills trust behind people's backs is talking about them, you know, or blaming them for something. You know, it's just a habit. It's a habit maybe I've learned from my parents. I just heard my father always talking about other people, always blaming them, always talking behind their backs. And so I kind of learned that that was okay. And so now I have that habit. And so now I do it. But I don't realize that as I do it with others, and they're going, yeah, I agree. Yeah, you should be blaming them. I don't realize that they, inside their minds, are quietly saying, oh God, this guy really does talk about it. I'm sure he must be talking about me behind my back too, and saying those similar things. And so I'm kind of withdrawing this invisible energy called trust in our relationships. So it's a trap. It's a habit that some of us, not all of us, or maybe a little bit, maybe a lot, have learned to develop in some way or other. The fifth characteristic of the authentic leader is they have respect and regard for everyone. You know, there's no favorites. It's this idea, this lovely idea. I remember hearing a story once. I kind of fell off my chair when I heard it, and it's about the governor in the prison in Dane County, Miami. It was the worst prisoner. This is about 15 years ago, maybe even 20 years ago. The worst prison in the United States, highest breakout, drug abuse, levels of conflict, all the prisons in America. And so in comes the new governor, and then he says to his prison staff, warders, etc., I'm going to send you on a 3-day customer service training course. Yeah, and so off they go on their 3-day customer service training. Wonder why the heck we're going on customer service training. Then they come back in, and he says, I'd like you now to treat the prisoners as if they were your customers. And then they do the figures, they do the survey, and it's the 2 years after that, the lowest breakout, the lowest level of conflict, the lowest levels of drug abuse in all the penitentiaries in America. Reason, one word, respect. So they began to respect those human beings. Instead of before, they used to kind of see them and label them and judge them as scum and violent, nasty people. They began to respect them as human beings. And it literally changed the culture of the organization, you know, as they began to see them just as human beings and respected, in other words, they valued the dignity and the worth, which is what respect is, to give value to the dignity and the worth of the other, of another human being, regardless of their history or their intentions. But of course, the habit that we have cultivated is that we expect to be respected ourselves. And this is an interesting conversation which I often have in the seminars and workshops that I run. It is this expectation to be respected, especially if I have a position in a formal organization. And when I don't get the respect that I expect, then I become upset. I'm maybe even irritated and angry, or I respect less the other person who are not respecting me. So I usually ask the question, does that mean you can lose someone's respect? Yeah, and what does it take for you to lose your respect for them? What do they have to do for you to disrespect them? And sometimes it can be as little as be late for a meeting, yeah, or tell a little fib. Yeah, and suddenly we withdraw our respect. Why? Because they did something which we believed made me feel upset, disappointed, sad. But then, full circle, when I realize they are not responsible for how I feel, I'm responsible for how I feel, then I'm withdrawing my respect from the relationship because of the illusion, because of an illusion that they are responsible for how I feel. And then I withdraw my respect. You made me very angry. You made me suffer. Therefore, I don't respect you anymore. And so we withdraw it so easily. And so the challenge for the authentic leader is to respect everyone at all times, regardless of what they say, what they've said, what their intentions are, what they are doing. That's easy, isn't it? Yeah, I'm sure that will raise just as many questions as it does answers. And maybe one question that leaves you with it: what is respect exactly? And I think I kind of defined it a little bit there. Is to see the value and the worth of the individual, to acknowledge that in the individual human being at all times. But of course, I can't do that unless I first do that for myself. Unless I know my own value, know my own worth within me. Yeah, and for most of us, that's not something we've been taught or learned or realized in our lives. So that's why it's necessary now to cultivate that feeling of the value the worth of the self. Yeah, it's not a thought. It's a very subtle feeling that needs to arise from the inside, comes from inside out. And that's quite challenging for us because we're so used to living from outside in and basing our self-worth on external things and external feedback and external people, etc. So it means that we need to take a few moments and look within, at least. The sixth characteristic of the authentic leader is this idea of humility. And unless there's the presence of humility in someone's character, then we're probably not going to be inspired by the individual or feel that we want to follow what they're saying. Humility can't be pursued. It's not a virtue that you can suddenly adopt. Oh, I'm going to be very humble today. I mean, you can try. It's not bad to try. Yeah, but it's like the quality of consciousness, which is already there, but only when you drop what you're putting in the way. Yeah, only when you stop creating something called the ego, then will the humility, the natural humility of the human being, of your human consciousness, will be revealed. So it's not practiced as much as revealed in this process. Now we find that very hard because we have this thing called the ego, our position, place, our personal qualities, even our experience. I know better than you. I've been down this road before. I know how this works. And so ego is really a form of attachment. It's attaching to, hey, I'm in this position, this idea of my position. Yeah, or this place, this is my place, this belongs to me, this house belongs to me. And so I'm attaching to the idea, the image of the house, or the personal quality. I have this talent and this skill. It's my talent, my skill. And so as soon as you say my, then you are attaching to and identifying with what you are not. You have talents and skills. You can play the piano, talent. You can play the violin, talent. But you are not those talents, those skills. Yeah. You can exercise them, but they're not intrinsic to you. And of course, the deepest attachment that we tend to build our sense of who I am out of is our experiences, our story, our life story. And this is like the painter looking at the painting and saying, yeah, I'm the painting. Some people actually believe the painter is the painting. No, there's the painting and there's the painter. There's the creation and the creator. So the experience is just a story and there is the creator of the story. So I'm not the creator. This is why writers get writer's block, because they're so invested in previous writing, previous stories. They can't get it out of their minds in order to be creative and create the next story. Yeah, I should know. I tend to write quite a bit. And so I know what writer's block is sometimes. I know, there it is. I know. My block. And so the seventh characteristic and the final one that I'll explore today is this idea of care. And do people know that you really care, that you love them, basically? I don't mean love in the Hollywood sense, but if you don't like the word love, then substitute the word care. And so what stops me from being more caring is the tendency to it's the lazy man's way to man, lazy parent's way to parenting is to use fear, in other words, emotion, to motivate people to do whatever they need to do. And that just means I don't care about you. I just need to get stuff done. And so, Luke, there's a deadline coming. You better get out. We're going to miss the deadline. Come on. I don't want you better be fearful of the deadline. So I'm triggering fear as the motivating energy in the consciousness of the other. And so it's like it works for a while, but it doesn't after a while, because fear is stress, basically. And if you're triggering stress in people, it's going to switch them off eventually. So these habits are just some of the habits that we kind of are challenged to liberate ourselves from as we interact with others, as we are setting an example for others, as we lead others. So I just want to very quickly finish this part of the presentation by looking at what a habit really is. And I'm going to use a metaphor to do that. And I'm going to use the metaphor of the coaxial cable in order to help you to see how to change a habit. Yeah, now habits aren't material things like cables. They're recordings in our consciousness. But really, I'm just using the cable, which brings the picture and the sound in the back of your TV every day. I'm just using it as a metaphor to try and describe how those recordings, how we set up those recordings, and then automatically energize them, and they automatically lead to whatever action, whatever habit is expressed. Yeah. So this is the metaphor of the coaxial cable. And the coaxial cable, you'll notice, is different layers of plastic on the outside, and there's a layer of copper gauze, and then there's a layer of metal, very fine metal. It's almost like paper, I think. There's another layer of plastic, and then there's this copper wire through the center. And so it's just a nice way to understand how we lay down our own habits and then put all the habits together, and you get a matrix, really. This is the real matrix. And on the matrix, all our habits together, all interlinked, all connected in a sense, they make up our personality. That's what makes you a different personality than my personality. We've created our personality to this moment in time in a different way. As is natural, it's fine, it's okay. So the outer layer represents the behavior and the words that I created and recorded in the past. Yes, what I said or what I did. So that's in my memory, that recording. And then that's driven and shaped by the emotion at the moment. That's what really triggers certain words or behavior. And that emotion is triggered by the way that I'm thinking, what I'm thinking about. If you notice, and you can become aware of this, that every emotion that you create is triggered by a thought. It just happens very quickly, but if you slow it down, you'll notice it's your thinking that triggers the emotion. And what's triggering and shaping your thought is the perception. And so your perception is the glass half full or half empty. Is the world a dark and dangerous place? Is the world a place of excitement and creativity? And so you decide. Yeah, that will be according to the beliefs that you've learned. So we've recorded all of these, layered and laid them down in our consciousness, and they constitute our habit. And I just have to say one word sometimes, and it triggers the energy of these recordings into life, into behavior. For example, I might just say the word rats. And so some people will jump up on the chair, that's their behavior, because the emotion is fear. The thought is rats are nasty little creatures. The perception is bad, dirty little things. And the belief is rats are little killers. And so I've learned that somewhere in the past. So someone just said one word and I reactivate the habit. And so it's me that activates it, but it seems like the person who says the word rats, but they just said a word. That's all. And so it's me that activates all these recordings. And so I react automatically. So this means if you want to change a habit, you have to change your beliefs. That's easy, isn't it? Yeah, I have to change my beliefs. And so final aspect part of this is to understand consciousness. And this is what I said at the beginning, consciousness is what you are. And it's like an iceberg, really. 10% of the iceberg you can see. In other words, 10% of your consciousness is what you're consciously aware of at any moment, in any situation. And 90% of the iceberg is under the surface. In other words, it's subconscious. I'm not aware of what's going on. And so you might watch an iceberg and the wind's blowing in that direction. So you might think the iceberg should be going from west to east, but it's not. It's going from east to west. And that's because in the subconscious, there are habits which are pulling me in the opposite direction. I know I should be going in that direction, but actually my habits are taking me in the opposite direction, because that is where all those recordings in the past have their roots. All those beliefs and emotions and behaviors, they have their roots in the subconscious. It's not rocket science. So here's the iceberg metaphor again, and you can change from outside in or from inside out. You can change your beliefs and belief system, and therefore your habits of reacting, if you want to. And you don't have to. I'm not saying you have to. I'm not saying you should or you shouldn't. I'm just saying it's possible. And so here are some of the conditioned beliefs, some of the most common ones, I suppose. You're a bad little boy. Someone told me that when I was only 5 years old, and I recorded it in my consciousness, and it's been with me ever since. It's in my subconscious now, has been for a while, but it throws up thoughts. Oh, I'm a bad, naughty person. Oh, I can't do that. Or you're not capable. You can't ride a bike. I kept falling off my bike when I was a kid. So someone, big brother, told me I wasn't capable. And so for the rest of my life, it shapes my thinking. My thoughts come up to the surface and they say, well, I can't do that. No, I'm not able to do that. Or you're not very creative. Someone looked over my shoulder at school and laughed when they saw something I'd painted. And I came to the conclusion, I'm not very creative. So for the rest of my life, someone asked me for creative ideas. I say, no, I don't create well. I'm not very creative. And so these belief systems are in our subconscious and throwing up thoughts all the time. Now you can change that from outside in by putting little affirmations like this. I am enthusiastic and calm. I am patient and creative. I am responsible for my thoughts and feelings. So if you keep giving your attention, in other words, your energy, to those, then eventually the old beliefs and belief systems will atrophy, like muscle and unused muscle. They'll waste away. And eventually these, not I will be, I'd like to, I could, I should. No, I am. In other words, you see yourself being enthusiastic and calm. Eventually, that will become a reality in your consciousness. But it's a bit slow. It's a bit slow. And you can do that. You can practice that. But the faster way is to change from inside out. Let's look at the core of consciousness. At the core of your consciousness is the heart of your consciousness. You have two hearts, heart of the body, heart of your being. It's not rocket science. It's been known for thousands of years. Sometimes it's called just consciousness or soul or spirit or psyche or the heart of your being, the core of your being. Now, if you go to the core of your being, that's where you'll always find peace, love, and contentment. I don't mean as things, but I mean as potential states of being. Notice that you're searching for those states on the outside. You spend most of your life looking for love, looking for happiness, deepest happiness being contentment, looking for moments of peace. Why do you go on a holiday? Because you want to lie on the beach and just relax. In other words, be at peace. That's because you haven't realized that your natural state of peace is already possible. It's already a potential creation from the heart of your consciousness when you go to the heart of your consciousness. It's not rocket science again. They've been doing it this in the East for thousands of years. Sometimes it's called meditation. And meditation is making the journey within, the journey of 1 second and no distance, back to the heart of your being. And there you're able to create your state of being. You're becoming the master again. Instead of going, oh, that's making me feel, that's making me upset, that's stimulating some feeling inside. No, you sit quietly and you become the creator, the master creator of your state of being. And we can all do that at any second. In a second, I can feel very peaceful. I feel really peaceful now. And there it is. I'm creating it and I'm feeling it right now at this moment. Don't need to go anywhere. Don't need to get anything. Don't need to have someone be with me. It's there right now. In fact, it's not just my state of being right now. I'm radiating the energy of my being as peace. Peace is just a label that describes the energy of my being. Love is just a label that describes the energy of our being. So as that energy is created at the very core, in the heart of your being, it comes to the surface. You bring it to the surface. And so you start thinking peacefully, you start thinking lovefully, you start acting, and you start acting lovefully. And that's because you're rediscovering the truth of who you are, of what you can create. Yeah. In other words, the truth that you are the master of your consciousness. Yeah. And so it's truth that replaces the belief, which is the core of every habit. It's some kind of belief. Now, belief is not the truth. You may argue for your beliefs, believing that your beliefs are true. But belief is not the truth. The truth about belief is in the word belief. The being is lying to itself. The being is lying, belie, to itself, belief. It's not that the content of the belief is wrong, it's the fact that you're attached to the belief subconsciously. You're holding on to it. In an argument, it's become conscious, although you're not totally conscious, you're just arguing for your opinion, which means your belief. And so it's like a habit. I've always believed that. Yeah, I've always felt, and so I'm right and you're wrong. That's probably one of the deepest beliefs. I'm right, you're wrong in that moment. And so it's not that the content is wrong. It's the fact that you're holding on to it. Whereas when you're coming from a place of truth, then you're not holding on to anything, but you're open to everything. The truth is a dynamic. You know, it's probably a better word. It's your trueness, your true state of being, your true nature, if you like. You know, and so that's always there, but of course we're not aware of it because it's been layered over by all these beliefs. I'm right, you're wrong. That's how it works, and that's how it works. And I've got to fight for this, stand up for that. And I got to follow. Oh yes, and so maybe this is what's happening right now. Is people are yeah, and so it's like I'm attached to those beliefs on the inside. I'm using those beliefs to define myself, and that's simply a mistake. Yeah, it makes me tight and closed. So let me stop here and just see if there's, I'm sure there's as many questions as raised as there are answers. And let's see what questions have come from that.
So far, I think it's what someone asking if the recording will be available.
Yeah. Well, that's up to you, whether you put it online or you have a website.
Yes, we are certainly going to make the recording available for everyone.
Yeah.
So we will share the recording with everyone. But I do have a question though. South Africa is going through so much currently, where there's a lot of lootings and, people are dying, people are burning, warehouses and so forth. And the person that is at the firing line of everything is our president, our leader.
Yeah.
So, and he's getting so much of criticism from other political parties and the media as well, because of the fact of what you mentioned here when you said humility of attitude. He's quite a humble person, really. And if you were to give him an advice, what would you say to him, really? Like, or maybe, I'm not too sure if I should say an advice, considering everything that you've mentioned, what would you really say to him that he would take as a coping mechanism or something that he might use in order for him to cope with the whole situation?
I haven't got a clue. I don't know the guy. I've never met the guy. I don't know what's going on. I don't know the context. However, I would say something to you or to anyone who's watching or any of these people is wake up. You're asleep. And the reason you're asleep is you're taking this individual and you're focusing your attention on this individual. You're bringing this individual into your consciousness. You're building your sense of identity out of that individual. Yeah. And then you're reacting emotionally to anything that attacks, criticizes, blames, or complains about that individual. So you're just making yourself suffer. You're not bringing any goodness to the situation. You're just bringing a lot more darkness. In other words, your misidentification, your attachment to whatever is going on or whatever is not going on. In other words, your beliefs about it all. It's your attachment to those beliefs which is making you suffer. And so what I would say many people are doing is they're feeding off the suffering of others. Oh, I agree with you. Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I believe that too. And so we're just making ourselves upset. And so this means we're asleep. We're unaware of what we are really doing in our own consciousness. Come right back full circle. Consciousness is what you are. You are responsible for everything that is created there. And right now you're creating a lot of suffering for yourself. So this is crazy. I mean, it's like putting a knife in your leg physically, 100 times a day. But we don't do that. If someone did that, we say, well, that's crazy. I wouldn't do that. And so why are you making yourself angry, frustrated, upset, or whatever? You're making yourself emotionally suffer, not physically suffer. No one else is doing that. The situation, the scenario is not doing that. You are doing that to you. This is crazy. This is called sleep. This is called being fully and fast asleep. And so what can we do in this context? We can be a leader for these people. And this is what the world is calling for, really, is that we can be a leader. And that's not easy. This is why it's so challenging, which means we can remain calm, remain, if you like, detached. Yeah, show people how not to make themselves suffer by not making ourselves suffer. In other words, be an example for those people. That's our challenge. But then I'm picking up your vibe. I think, but what's going on? With someone's got to do something. We've got to do that. We've got to get out on the street and we've got to change other people. We've got to fix things. We've got to put it right. This is bad. This is terrible. Yeah. And so, number one, your suffering is due to this belief that they should do what I say. In other words, you're trying to control other people. It's impossible. You can't control other people. Yeah. Number two, your belief system is not your creation. It's something you've assimilated from around you and allowed to shape your consciousness. Yeah? That's a big mistake. And number three, you're showing everyone around you through your angriness or your upsetness or your concern. You might just call it concern, your emotional concern. Oh, this is terrible. Then you're showing other people how to be reactive instead of responsive, how to automatically react instead of consciously respond. And that's what the world's waiting for. They're waiting for cool people, not running away, not avoiding, not caring, but who are able to respond to the situation, whatever is going on in society, in an organization, in a team, in a family, whatever is going on, in a cool, rational, and wiser way. Let me just finish by, in the West, we have this lovely saying, oh, don't just sit there. So you got to do something. You got to get up and act, be an activist. And so, oh, yes, okay, here I go. And so, oh, everyone else is doing it. So we must be right. So we all join in together. Whereas in the East, and Africa is a bit split between the two, I think. Don't just do something, sit there. Yeah. In other words, sit there and consult your own wisdom, your own innate wisdom. Give yourself a chance to tap in to your own wisdom, to something deeper within your consciousness. And then you'll respond from inside out, not react to what's outside in, what's coming from outside in. And this is what Mandela, this is the example he showed us. This is what he showed us. He said he didn't react to anything. Yeah, he was cool, he was calm, he was there, he was available, he was with people, but he didn't emotionally react to anything. He was a brilliant example of this because, and I'm not saying it's going to take you 27 years, but he was 27 years. He was able to internalize, go within. I think he studied the Course in Miracles for a while. And the basic principle there is what I've been sharing with you. It's not new, it's ancient wisdom, is that everything you need, your power, your judgment, your wisdom is already there within you. You just need to give yourself a chance to connect.
I think that's a message that will actually go to all South Africans, not only the leader, but we actually need to be, using our inner self, our inner strength, in order for us not to react, but to actually tap from within so that we can be able to handle situations in a better way. So I do see there's let me see if it's a comment or if it's a question. The person is saying many times in hindsight that leaders can say we should have done better. What practices can help one to respond from a place that is more aligned with truth?
If you give yourself the chance to be a little bit more introspective and introvertive, and you learn some kind of meditation, you'll begin to realize that everyone has a different perspective, a different perception, of the same situation often. And it's like going to the movies with a friend. You come out after the movie and have a coffee together. You talk about the movie, and you say to your friend, "Well, I didn't see that," and they say, "Well, I didn't see that." Were we watching the same movie? Yeah, we were, but we were watching different versions, and that version was appearing in our own mind. We were creating our own version of the story. So someone who says, that you should have done better, that's their perception. And so I respect that. Yeah, you notice that it could have been done better. I mean, they're probably not aware that they may be really saying that it should have been done according to what they think, how they think it should be done, as opposed to just better. But this is their way of saying that. That's okay. I respect that. And so next time, we'll try and improve things. It's okay. No problem. And that's what respect. Because they're seeing things differently from me. And I respect that. That's fine. I don't expect other people to see exactly the same as me, especially when it comes to my own personal performance.
But then in terms of responding from a place of truth, how do we tap into that? That's a question. Like, how do we know that my responses are coming from my authenticity, my space of trueness? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that takes a little bit of time, that you're being true to yourself. You're expressing your own truth. And so there won't be any emotional disturbance. There won't be a feeling that something is missing. You've just spoken what is true for you. And so it's like, many people think truth is a thing, a philosophy, a set of ideas, a system. It's not. Truth is not an idea. It's not a fixed thing. Truth is, if you imagine consciousness at different levels, it's if you're connected to the core of your consciousness, to your trueness, then you will respond to whatever is going around you from that trueness. But if you're connecting just to an old belief or a learned belief, then you're automatically reacting to whatever is going on around you. And then you'll feel there's something not quite right. You'll feel as if you have to defend something or protect something. Whereas if you're coming from a place of truth or trueness, your authenticity, who you really are, then you don't need to defend anything. You don't need to protect anything. The truth doesn't need to be justified. And so you're quite sure, you're quite certain what I did or what I said is aligned. It's coming from inside out, that's coming. You're not thinking that. You're not thinking, oh, I just spoke from my truth. You just are. You don't think it. That's why, in a sense, this is a little bit false to try and describe it. But when you do, and so and just to finish off, you've probably met people who are able and who have done that or said that, or their behavior was it's just what they really, really felt. And so you were kind of looking at them when you're going, wow, they're real. There's no nonsense. They really feel that. And so even though that for you, what they said or what they did wasn't that accurate, you could sense that they were coming from their own authenticity, their own sense of what is true.
Yeah.
You can sense it in another person.
Yeah. So yeah, very insightful and highly informative. I'm not too sure if there's any other, but we don't have any other questions. What would you like to do now? Would you lead us to meditation, and what is it that maybe should happen? But well, what is mentioned?
I was going to go into this idea of VUCA and how to deal with VUCA, but I kind of think that's enough for one session. And I think maybe if you want to explore a little bit more around that territory, then we can do another session in a few months' time or whatever.
I think we still have enough time to do that because we need to end by 4:30. So if you maybe would like to enter into that space of VUCA, then that would be great.
Okay. No problem.
How long will that take, possibly?
Well, I'm not sure really. I kind of certainly, this 20 minutes will certainly use up that time, that's for sure.
Okay, yes, we can.
Okay, so let me go back into sharing the screen with you, and we go to part 2. And it's really an exploration of the skills and the mindset that's required if I'm going to explore this thing called VUCA. VUCA is really about anticipating changes to come. And I'm sure you're aware of what VUCA really means. You know, it's the volatile, the uncertain, the complex, and the ambiguous. Terms that were identified, I think, somewhere in the past. They say, so the story goes that it's the US military that came up with this term in their own management structures, their own leadership training, etc. So anticipating change that is volatile in the world, when you learn to do that, to perceive the pace and the nature of change, then it contributes to this thing called vision. And certainly things are changing very fast now in the world. So it's quite hard to get a clear vision into the future of what's coming. But you can get a vision which helps you to understand what's really going on. And there is an understanding which you can cultivate if you sit back, and look at the events that are happening around you in South Africa today. You can cultivate your own personal understanding if you want to. But if you're emotionally reacting to it all and taking sides mentally and watching the news and consuming all the information and thinking, how bad is all this? Then that won't contribute to you being able to really understand why and what is going on. And what you'll also begin to see, if you take time to do this, is the complexity of the issues, the chaos that's occurring around you. And so when you see the complexity, when you simplify the complexity of the picture, then you achieve something called clarity. You begin to see clearly. And that's always the challenge in any situation, especially a public one. But really our challenge is to really see ourselves clearly. Why is it am I reacting? Why am I taking sides? Why am I really attached to the way things used to be? And so to see clearly within myself is challenging in itself. And so ambiguous means things that are obscure, shifting realities is to be able to ascribe meaning to whatever I don't understand. You know, it takes into the territory of what's sometimes called spiritual intelligence. And someone who's spiritually intelligent is never surprised or shocked by any external event because they can ascribe meaning to it. Yeah, and so they're quite flexible with it. They're agile in their relationship to it. It doesn't bother them. It doesn't not bother them. You know, they really understand it. They can see it clearly. You know, they've got the big picture in their mind of what's really going on. So it may well be that there's different factors contributing to the scenario that you are watching right now. What are those factors? Yeah, high unemployment, yeah, or corrupt leadership, or the loss of work. You know, there's so many factors which only you know, in a sense, you can draw together, you can knit together, and you can ascribe meaning to it all, quite calmly, quite coolly, from your armchair. So this is this using VUCA. It's just a way of separating and building the picture. The mindsets that you need to have as a leader of other people, which really means manager stroke leader in an organizational setting, is to develop an adaptive mindset. And so am I flexible in the way I see things and understand things? Or am I really fixed? This is bad, this is good. So it should be this way it should be. You know, this is rigidity. And so, no, wait on a second. I mean, I get more information every day that changes my picture of what's going on. Am I able to be flexible enough to accept that information? In other words, let go of how I saw it yesterday and see it anew today, have a deeper understanding today. So there needs to be a culture of engagement with people. I need to want to engage and get their ideas and their input, their perspectives. A continuously learning intention, and learning eventually will take you towards unlearning, the need to unlearn. Oh, wait a minute. Just like I've been sharing with you, I do have many of these beliefs that are in the way. I need to unlearn those beliefs. It's not a question of learning new beliefs. It's a question of letting go of how I used to perceive, believe the way the things are in the world, in order for me to reveal, who I really am, what I really have to the world. Otherwise, I'm just reacting all the time. I need to create and communicate a vision to others, an understanding to others, meaning to others, because I know that as a leader, I'm possibly responsible for creating and communicating that vision. And if I'm not as a leader, then maybe I can anyway. I need to anticipate and create change, be brave enough to say, well, this is not the way things are. It's not like this, it's like that. Always increasing my own self-awareness, which really means some kind of practice I need to build into my life. The decision-making, again, only happens when I'm able to tap into my wisdom. Many leaders today are just dependent on information to make decisions. Whereas the real leaders, the quiet leaders, the leaders that sit in the corner, are tapping into their wisdom, which really comes from inside out. Information comes from outside in. And so I don't need information to make, there's enough information in the world. I need wisdom to make good quality, clear decision making. I need to develop my emotional intelligence. That's another seminar on its own. I could talk for hours about EQ, what it is exactly and what it really means. In fact, how emotional intelligence is a contradiction in terms, because when you're emotional, you're less intelligent. It doesn't make you more intelligent. So what does it really mean, emotional intelligence? I need to build networks of collaboration. In other words, who's going to help, who's going to make a contribution, how can I help them? And so it's all about networks today, not about teams so much. Everyone's networked. And then create the space for others to grow and develop. So I need to initiate conversations. This is the 11th factor, if you like, around these characteristics to help others to understand the complexity, the uncertainty, the ambiguity, to get clear. I can't make anyone see clearly, accept that there is uncertainty. See through the ambiguity. I can't make anyone do that, but it's in conversations that we can together find our clarity. And so conversations that start with these kinds of questions: what factors, conditions have increased in volatility in your industry in the last 10 years? So I'm looking to the past, reviewing the past. Question 2 is looking to the future. In what areas do you see future volatility in the world that may affect your business in the coming years? And so as we sit and discuss these, we begin to find depth, a depth in our answers and our awareness of what's coming down the line. And we begin to see with clarity together, only in conversation, how we might need to adapt in the future. And this is using VUCA in conversation. And I won't go into all of these other aspects. These are just same questions, past and future. These are the starter questions for conversations with a group of people in these areas. Yeah, because we all help each other. Our perspectives help each other. But in the background all the time, it's necessary to dance with an awareness of the context that we're in, which you're doing right now. So in other words, I'm talking about big context, you're talking about more local context. We're living in the age of convergence. We've got technology, we've got little handsets of technology with absolutely everything, which used to be separated 10, 20 years ago. Computers and phones and all the applications now, they're all on one device which goes in your pocket. So it's converging. Technology has made things convergent. So we're trying to follow suit. And so we have a group of people in the world who are trying to create what's called a new world order. In other words, they're trying to converge nations together into one world. Yeah, that's another seminar again as well. And so you've got disruptive developments going on. And so you've got industries being disrupted all the time. The taxi industry, the taxi is called Uber, and it's the only company that doesn't have any taxis. Airbnb is the only hotel business that doesn't have any hotels. And so these have come in and they've disrupted, again through the use of technology, current situations. And so what's going to disrupt our world to come? What is the disruption of society avoiding knowing or seeing because of their emotional disruption? What are they avoiding seeing coming in the future? Because they're not sitting quietly and wisely exchanging. What's really going on in the world? What's really happening? And so one of the things that's happening is AI, and AI is coming very fast now. And AI is just a new ball game altogether. Do I really understand AI? The effect it's going to have? One of the effects is the increase in automation. In other words, there's going to be a huge loss of jobs, if it hasn't been already, because of AI. Have I really seen that in the world? And then what does that mean for what I'm engaged in, for the life that I'm leading? And so I can become emotionally upset because someone else has got the AI and I don't have it, or I can get together with a group of people and we can really think our way through, well, how do we begin to use this AI ourselves? Or is there something that we need to do differently in our society in order to help ourselves? And so again, and so what we see is this rise in technocracy around the world, this where the technocrats are trying to take over in a sense. And so they're replacing politicians, the media, industry, etc. They're moving into everything. But hey, once again, another seminar. But at the same time, don't forget that behind all of this, there is something called the law of entropy. The law of entropy says energy moves from order to chaos. And maybe that's one of the symptoms that you're watching right now in your society. You're not unique. There's different countries going through very chaotic situations. Some we know about, some we don't hear about. But essentially, for me, this is not maybe what you might see it, but for me, it's all to do with entropy. And if you don't understand entropy, Google entropy. Begin to research entropy. And you'll begin to see it doesn't just happen to external energy, but it also happens to the energy of consciousness. It's a principle of the movement of the energy from from order to chaos. And you can't go backwards. You can't reverse the process. So maybe we're watching that right now. Who knows? So the inner VUCA, the VUCA that we all have to deal with, which is the energy within ourself, our consciousness again. And so is there a lot of volatility in your consciousness? Are you reacting instead of responding? Yeah, because responding is a much wiser, cooler, better, more powerful way to live than it is to be emotionally reactive to everything. Is there uncertainty in your consciousness and your energy and your thoughts? Are you allowing your fears, yeah, to stop you taking risks, taking chances? In other words, are you paralyzing yourself? What's the complexity that you're dealing with in your consciousness? Are you not seeing clearly? What are you not seeing? What do you need to sit quietly and look at it and see the connections and perceive and get clearer about what's going on within you? Yeah, your perception of what's going on within you. In other words, what you're creating in your consciousness, excuse me. And finally, is there any ambiguity in your consciousness? Yeah, are you, oh, I'm really confused. I really don't get it. I don't understand why this is happening. So maybe just quieten the mind and maybe you begin to see clearly and find the meaning of saying, aha, now I see. Yeah, but you have to have a quiet mind to have a quiet state of being. You have to calm yourself down in order to see, not with your physical eyes, but with your third eye. Now I understand. Now the practices to help you do that, meditation, contemplation, it's been around for thousands of years, been doing in the East, they're not daft. And so you notice that people who meditate a lot, they're much calmer, they're much more clear, they're less reactive. You notice that. Why? Because that's practices in their life. Detached involvement, staying engaged but staying detached. Lovely book I would recommend called Self-Management or Managing by Detached Involvement. It's a recognized management skill. It sounds contradictory to the Western programmed mind. Detachment, that means you don't care, you avoid. Yeah, you're cold. No, it doesn't. Detachment just means you don't become dependent on anyone. You don't get angry just because others are angry. You don't get upset because others are upset. In other words, you're standing back and coming from your true inner space. Being a servant leader, I'm here to serve, to help others. Have you got that consciousness yet? That I'm here to be of service. How can I help you? And in the context of organizations, do your job better. I'm here to be a servant for you, of you. And then this idea of continuous learning and continuous unlearning, because that's really what we're doing. So I think I mentioned it before. This is what many people learn to say. Yeah, and that's what I'm watching now is very impatient people who are saying we got to do something about this, and that's why you get riots in a sense. But the wise leader says, don't just do something. They say, sit there, see clearly. Not sitting like that, but a bit more like this. Yeah. In other words, attentively. In other words, cultivating your self-awareness, because it's only within yourself that you see clearly what's going on around you, basically. And you may notice eventually, may even say or think, I know I do not see the world as it is. I see the world as I am. Yeah, I like that because that is so true. Whatever you see outside is just a reflection of you on the inside. So if you see hate and chaos outside, it means you're giving life. You've been giving life to that in your consciousness. Yeah. Challenging, isn't it? So very quickly, part 3, and some of you will know that I've written a book about liberating leadership. And the subheading of the book was, being no one, having nothing, going nowhere. And I just like to explain that. First of all, intelligence. What is intelligence? Intelligence is using what you know in an accurate way at the accurate moment in relation to the material situation in front of you, or the events in your consciousness, using what you know in an accurate way. For example, rational intelligence. You know if you walk out in front of a car, you'll get knocked down, there'll be a lot of pain. So you know that. So you use that knowledge to make sure you walk between the cars. So some things can be rationally decided in that way based on what you know. But there's a deeper level of intelligence called intuitive intelligence. And intuitive intelligence is what you can tap into. In other words, you tap into your knowingness. In other words, what you know in your subconscious, what you know at the core of your being, but you're not aware of. It's not like day-to-day knowledge that is necessary that you automatically use, but it's this knowingness. In other words, I'm going this way, not that way. And you say, Mike, why are you going this way, not that way? I don't know, but it feels right. So it's a feeling that I know that it's right to go that way. Yeah. And so the more you sit quietly and restore mastery of your consciousness, the more intuitive, the more you'll sense, the more you'll access this knowingness, and you'll make decisions based on that knowingness more frequently. And you'll begin to trust your own intuitions, your own deeper, more subtle feelings, basically. Then there's something called EQ, emotional intelligence. It's not quite in the right list here because, as I said before, when you're emotional, you're not intelligent. Have you ever tried to think clearly when you're angry? Have you ever tried to make good quality decisions when you're really scared? Have you ever, can you give good energy to others when you're upset and irritated? No. And so when you're emotional, it sabotages your intelligence. Yeah. So emotional intelligence really means understanding emotion, why I create it, it's not created by anyone else, where it's coming from, yeah, and how to, as the psychiatrist said to the patient, stop it. How to stop it. Again, another seminar. And so the deepest level of intelligence is spiritual intelligence. And the ultimate in spiritual intelligence is realizing that I'm no one, that I have nothing, and that I'm going nowhere. And this is everyone's leadership journey, is to realize this. And the reason why being intelligent is being no one is that we learn to be somebody. This is what we're taught. We're trying to be somebody. And that's a contradiction to the truth of who you are. In other words, someone who's trying to be somebody does not know how to be. You know, they don't know how to be. So it's like a little bit like being naked. Take off all your clothes and your body's naked. So I have to take off all the ideas and images and things that I'm attached to, that I become dependent on, that I'm using to build my sense of self. I go, just take them all off, and then I'm naturally no one. It's not that I don't exist. It's just I'm no one. Yeah. And that's what spirituality has its foundation in, is this being no one. And so I don't have to prove anything to anyone. So you're allowing yourself to remember that life is just a game and you're here to play. We kind of know this intuitively. And every day you play many different roles. You create and you play the game of many different roles. You can't do that unless you, at the very core of your being, have realized, I'm not a role. Yeah. I'm not a position. Yeah. I'm not here to do something specific. I'm just here to be myself, which is, in the world of names and labels and judgments, is no one. It's not that I don't exist. Hey, I can play any role. I can create any role I like. Yeah, it's fine. Whatever comes, whoever comes in front of me, I create accordingly to respond in the most accurate way. Yeah. But that's hard for most of us because we've been conditioned to believe you gotta be someone. You've got to get somewhere. Yeah. So I'm challenging that belief or belief system. Having nothing, there's a whole thing that's scaring people on the internet now. And it's this idea that this WEF, the World Economic Forum, is saying in the future, by 2030, you will own nothing and you will be happy. I'm sure everyone's probably heard of this somewhere. But here's the paradox, is that is true already. Yeah, you have nothing. Yeah. And so it's about realizing that nothing is ever mine. Yeah, nothing is ever mine. It's not that I don't have money, people, houses, jobs, shirts, clothes in my life. It's that my relationship with them in its true state means it's not mine. Whenever you think or say, that's mine, you're compromising yourself. In other words, you're becoming trapped in what you think you have. That's why they say, we don't have possessions. Our possessions have us. You know, they're like prisons. We have the image of our car in our mind, and then we lose ourself, a sense of self in the image. And then we said, oh, it's my car. And so it's like my identity is wrapped by the car. And so in that moment, I believe the car is mine. So allow yourself to remember that nothing and no one ever belongs to you. Paradoxically, if you really realize that truth, then more will come into your life. Yeah, more people, more situations, more opportunities. It will flow more freely into and through your life. Yeah, because you're no longer trying to hold on to it, trying to dam the river, trying to stop the flow, if you like. And then finally, you're not going anywhere. So that's certainly true now. We're not allowed to travel. We're not allowed to go anywhere. But you never were anyway. Your body you might have taken to another physical location, but you were always here. You know, whenever you need to be somewhere, then you are no longer fully present. This is what happens in our relationships. We're not present for the other because we're off somewhere. You know, well, I need to get somewhere. I need to do something. I need to be over there. I need to be in the meeting. And so we think we need to be somewhere else. Yeah. Yeah. But it's an illusion. You can't be anywhere else. Allow yourself to remember you are always here. Not here physically, but here. Yeah, I'm always here. In other words, there's a great title to a book, and the title is Wherever You Go, There You Are. Yeah, so you're lying on the beach. Now I've reached the beach. Oh, wait a minute. I've still got the same worry, same care, same concern, same things going on oh, it's me. It's still me. Oh, hello, me. I'm still here. But my body might be located somewhere else. So you're not going anywhere. I go nowhere. So to believe you go somewhere is an illusion, really. So that's why these three insights, these three aha moments are necessary if I'm going to be the best example for others. Recommended reading, finish off. I recommend you read this. It's called Desiderata. Read it once a day until you remember every single word. And then when you start to remember it from reading it every day, and then if you embody Desiderata, it's a great wisdom for life, then you'll inspire and empower others. So it just gives you a little bit of something that you can Google Desiderata, print it out, have a read. I'm sure many of you know it already. It's fabulous. So thank you for zooming in. Sorry it's taken a bit longer than planned, but I hope it's worth it. And let's see if there's any final questions. Lebo, how is that? Okay, was I do that in time?
We are a little bit over time, but I think it was worth it. I'm not too sure if you want to answer this question, but then I don't know if we need to answer the question or go through meditation. What do you think we should do right now?
Well, just one question and then we'll do meditation.
Okay. How do you overcome discriminations against the community or classification of the leader? How do you overcome discriminations against the community or classification of the leader?
Okay. Don't buy into it. In other words, don't be influenced by their discriminatory language or the discriminatory action. In other words, you have to walk your own path. Yeah. In other words, you have to decide, I don't see any discrimination here. In other words, I'm not going to join in with the discrimination of others. All I see are human beings doing their thing. Yeah. Everyone's different at every level, absolutely every level. They're all different, but they're all human beings. And so there's my vision of what's going on around me. And so I'm not going to buy into the biases, the prejudices, the discrimination of others. That's their business. It's not my business. I'm not here to do their business. I'm just here to do my business. So I see clearly. Yeah. And then as you walk that perception, as you express that perception, it will naturally influence others. You're not joining it. Something wrong with you? Why don't you get upset with us? And yet you still come to the meetings, and I'm still talking to you, and yet you're not sort of, what is it? How come you're not so upset as we are? And that's your chance to share how you rise above. You've transcended, this perception, this belief system, basically.
Yeah. So what I'm taking from everything is we need to really focus on the inner VUCA, because there's so much of this complex VUCA from all over the world, where the techno-reds are taking over the world, the AI is taking over the world. But if I now internalize myself and focus on who am I and all that is what you've mentioned now, then I'm good to go. I'm good to be a liberated leader. So I think everyone has actually benefited from this. And the advice that we got today is to go through this Desiderata. If we can read that every day, I think that will help a lot. Yeah?
Good, great.
Okay.
Moments of quiet?
Yes.
Okay. So then whenever I meditate with people or I kind of demonstrate meditation, and I'm sure many of you are doing it already, it's really simple. Try not to talk too much. No, it's not another lecture in a sense, but it's really kind of a set of movements of my consciousness, which I'm describing in words, describing my thoughts, my feelings as I go into the meditation. So you can come with me if you want, or you can switch off and go and make a cup of tea, or you can do whatever you like. It's fine. I would recommend you don't look at the screen because then you kind of reactivate. Oh, I don't like that. And I like this. What's that? And so you want to be free of all, those distractions. So just rest your eyes somewhere nearby on an object or place, and so you're going to go beyond seeing it really when you start to meditate. So position yourself in the chair so you're comfortable, not slouching, but fairly upright. And then just take your awareness through your body and let's notice any tension or tightness in your physical body. And then relax that part of your body. If you find any, you may not find any, you may be totally relaxed altogether anyway. But just relax your body in the chair. And bring your awareness to yourself. And then take a moment and just see if you can be aware of yourself being aware. You may even notice you are awareness itself. Then bring your awareness to your breath, to your breathing. And just watch your breath for a second. Go with the flow of your breath. Watch the rising and falling of your chest. Don't force it, just watch. And then in your mind, create one thought. I am a being of peace. Allow that one thought to pass across the screen of your mind, but very slowly, as slow as you can get it. And then let that thought fade away. And notice what remains. There's just this feeling of peace, feeling of calm, of quiet. And yet I'm very aware the mind is silent. And I'm aware there's a stillness here at the heart of my being. Silent and still. Silent and still. And then bring your awareness back to the room around you, the here and now. As you listen through your ears, hear from that stillness. As you see through these eyes, hear from that stillness. It's good. So thank you for zooming in or tuning in, as they say, and good luck on the journey. Thanks, Level.
Thank you, Brother Mike, and all the best. Thank you so much. We truly enjoyed. Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks, Mike. Bye.
Thank you, Brother Mike.
The Pratibha chuckle.
Yeah.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.